Good morning, ma'am. I'm Chris Evan V. Oga from Grade 8 Pascal. This is my video performing an experiment in Science Quarter 3, Week 1 to Week 2. The objectives of this experiment are to decide common properties of matter, distinguish properties of matter from those of non-matter, and realize that not all things around us are all matter. For activity number 1, which is matter, which is not, the material used in activity number 1 are sugar, water, air inside the balloon, leaves, and smoke from fire in a plastic wrapper. And I will identify each materials if it's a matter or not. Sugar granules is a matter because it occupies space and has a mass. Water is a matter because it occupies space and has mass. Stone is a matter because it occupies space and has mass. Air inside the ball is a matter because it occupies space and has mass. Leaves is a matter because it occupies space and has mass. Smoke is a matter because it occupies space and has mass. Light from sunlight is not a matter because it is a form of energy. Questions for activity number 1. What do you think is the similarities or common among the first 5 samples? All examples from number 1 to number 5 will occupy space and has a measurable mass, and they have their own shape and texture. Does each sample have measurable mass? Yes. Do you think each sample occupies space? Yes. How about smoke? Does it have mass? Yes. Will it occupy space? Yes. Do you think the light have a mass? No. Does it occupy space? No. For activity number 2, what is matter made of? The material used for activity number 2 are transparent glass bottle, food coloring, and a cup of water. For activity number 2, describe what you observe after adding the food coloring. The particles of food coloring slowly spreading downward. What happened to the food coloring drop in bottle containing water? Write all your observation. The clear and colorless water inside the jar becomes violet. Think of a food coloring and water as made up of a particle. Make an illustration of a particle arrangement of water and food coloring inside a transparent jar. This is an illustration of a particle arrangement of water and food coloring inside a transparent jar. Activity number 3 are the particles of matter moving. What is between the particles? The material used for activity number 3 is a syringe and water. Now, I will pull the plunger until it reaches 30 ml. Then I cover the tip of the syringe by pressing it with my thumb, then I push the pulled plunger. The next step is I fill the syringe with water up to 30 ml. And I cover tightly the tip of the syringe, then I push the plunger. Questions for activity number 3. Can you push the plunger all the way towards the tip? Why or why not? No, because there are air particles inside the syringe. What do you feel in your thumb as you push the plunger? I can feel the pain when I push the plunger. What is inside the syringe? There is an air particles inside the syringe. Now, compare the pain you feel with your thumb when the syringe is filled with air than with water. It is more painful in my thumb when I push the plunger in a syringe filled with water than in a syringe filled with air. Of which situation can you pull the plunger the most? Is it in the syringe filled with air or with water? Why? The plunger can be pushed more in a syringe filled with water. The reason is, air or gas particles are more compressible since there are big spaces between them compared to water or liquid particles. Guide questions for this activity. Number 1. What is visible light? Visible light refers to the visible region of the electromagnetic spectrum, that is, the range of wavelengths that trigger brightness and color perception in humans. It lies between UV and infrared radiation. Number 2. Why do we see colors? White light is composed of radiation of all colors. When an object receives light, it absorbs some wavelengths and reflects others. The ones that it reflects are the ones we see as color. A green object absorbs all wavelengths except those of the green spectrum. A white object reflects almost all, and a black object absorbs almost all. Number 3. Explain brightness or intensity to characteristic of wavelengths. The brightness of light is related to intensity of the amount of light an object emits or reflects. Brightness depends on the light waves, amplitude, the height of light waves. Brightness is also somewhat influenced by wavelengths. My reflection for this activity. Matter is important for me because it has mass and occupies space. Therefore, all things that I can touch and see is part of matter. I, as a student, should have my own background in matter because matter have many forms and I should study and know them well so I can use them properly and wisely.